Welcome to Cheat Sheet Tale, where secrets slip, lies unravel, and the truth always has a twist. Real stories, raw confessions, and shocking betrayals. Drop a comment if you've ever caught a red flag too late now. Let's get into today's tale me. Parents spent my college fund on my sister's dream wedding, saying she deserves it more. I pretended to accept it, smiling through the pain. Years later, they showed up at my graduation, and what they saw left them in shock. I grew up in a small town in Ohio. My parents were hardworking folks, always emphasizing the importance of education. From a young age, they told me they were setting aside money for my college education. It was a promise that gave me comfort, especially during tough times. My sister Lena was the star of the family. 2 years older than me, she had a vibrant personality that drew people in. She was always the center of attention, and my parents adored her. I didn't mind. I loved her too. When I got accepted into a reputable university in California, I was overjoyed. I approached my parents to discuss the next steps, expecting their support. Instead, they looked uneasy. "We need to talk about the college fund," my father said. My heart sank. "What about it?" "We had to use it," my mother said, avoiding my eyes. "Use it for what? Lena's wedding?" My father said bluntly. I was stunned. "All of it. She deserved a beautiful wedding." My mother defended. "She's been through so much." "And what about me?" I asked, my voice trembling. "You're strong," my father said. "You'll figure it out." I left the room in silence, the weight of betrayal pressing down on me. That night, I cried myself to sleep, the dreams of my future slipping away. Determined not to let the setback define me, I sought alternatives. I applied for scholarships, took out student loans, and secured a part-time job at a local cafe. Balancing work and studies was grueling, but I was resolute. Each sleepless night and missed social event was a step closer to my goal. Lena's wedding was a grand affair. Held at a luxurious venue it was, the talk of the town I attended, smiling through the pain, hiding the resentment that simmered beneath the surface. She looked radiant, and despite everything, I was happy for her. Years passed. I graduated with honors, securing a job at a prestigious firm in New York. The city was overwhelming, but I embraced the chaos, channeling my energy into building a life I could be proud of. I rarely spoke to my parents, our relationship strained by past events. One day, I received an email from my university, an invitation to the alumni gala where I was to be honored for my contributions to the community. It was a prestigious event attended by notable figures and alumni. I decided to invite my parents, hoping to bridge the gap that had grown between us. To my surprise, they accepted. They arrived in New York, marveling at the city's grandeur. I took them on a tour, showing them my apartment, my office, the life I had built. They were impressed, perhaps even a little envious. The night of the gala arrived, dressed in an elegant gown. I took the stage to accept my award. As I spoke, I glanced at my parents seated in the audience. Their expressions were a mix of pride and regret. After the event, my father approached me. "We're proud of you," he said, softly. "Thank you," I replied, emotions swirling within me. "We're sorry," my mother added, tears in her eyes. "We should have supported you." I nodded, the pain of the past still lingering, but softened by their acknowledgement. A few months later, I received a call from Lena. She was going through a divorce, her once perfect marriage unraveling. She was struggling, financially and emotionally. Despite our history, I offered her support, helping her find a job and a place to stay. Through our conversations, I learned that their lavish wedding had been more of a spectacle than a celebration. The pressure to maintain appearances had strained her relationship, leading to its eventual demise. "I envied you," she admitted one evening. "You built your life on your own terms." "It wasn't easy," I replied, "but it was worth it." Years later, I stood on another stage, this time delivering a keynote address at a conference. My parents sat in the front row, their faces beaming with pride. Lena was there too, now a successful entrepreneur. As I spoke about resilience and perseverance, I reflected on my journey, the betrayal, the struggles, the triumphs, they had all shaped me. I had turned pain into purpose, forging a path that was uniquely mine. 2 weeks after the conference, I got a letter in the mail. Not an email, a real letter in a cream envelope with fancy handwriting. It was from a lawyer. At first I thought, maybe it was a thank you note from one of the event organizers. Nope. It was a formal notice that my parents were being sued and my name was listed in the document. Apparently, years ago, when they pulled my college fund to pay for Lena's wedding, they had withdrawn the money from a trust account my grandfather had set up for me. A trust that was legally locked in for my education. I never knew about it. My grandfather died when I was 10, and I barely understood money back then. The trust had specific terms. The money could only be used for education, and if anyone used it, otherwise legal action could be taken. The lawyer represented a firm that managed several such trusts. They had been reviewing older accounts and caught the discrepancy. Now they were demanding repayment of the full amount used, plus penalties and interest. It totaled over $220,000. I was stunned. I called the lawyer's office to ask why I was involved. He said, "We need your cooperation. You were the beneficiary. We'll need your statement." I hung up, the phone shaking. My parents had not only betrayed me emotionally, they had broken the law. And now it was catching up with them. I flew home that weekend. I needed to talk to them face to face. When I walked into the house, they looked like they'd seen a ghost. My dad stood up from the recliner. My mom was in the kitchen pacing. "You got the letter," my dad said. I nodded. "Why didn't you tell me it was a trust? We didn't think it mattered." My mom whispered, "You got scholarships, you made it." "That's not the point," I snapped. "That money wasn't yours to take. We just wanted Lena to have something nice," she said, almost defensively. She had been through so much. "You always say that," I said. "But what about me?" My dad sat down, head in his hands. "We messed up. We know." They begged me to talk to the lawyer and say it was all a misunderstanding, but I couldn't do that. Not when they knowingly broke legal terms. Not when I had worked 3 jobs just to stay afloat, while they handed over my future like odding gift. "You chose her," I said over and over. And now it's time to face that choice. I left that night, didn't stay. For dinner, I didn't sleep in my childhood room. I drove to a hotel and cried into a stiff pillow that smelled like bleach. Lena called me a few days later. "I had no idea it was from a trust," she said. "They told me they had savings." "You think it's normal to spend that moosh on a wedding when your sibling is about to start college?" I asked. She was quiet. "I didn't ask them to do that," she said. "That. Finally, I never wanted to hurt you whether you wanted to or not. You did." She started crying, real shaking sobs. "I'm gonna pay it back," she said. "Somehow." "I promise you shouldn't have to," I told her, "but it's not on me to stop you." There was a long pause. She was trying to figure out what that meant. A week after the call, I got another surprise. My parents had emptied their retirement account, trying to pay back the trust, but it wasn't enough. They were now facing foreclosure on the house. My childhood home, the house I grew up in. The one where I scraped my knees and built blanket forts and sobbed after rejection letters. They called me again. My mom said, "We need your help." I didn't respond. My dad said, "You're doing well. Can you help us with the mortgage just until we get through this? Did you help me when I needed you?" I asked. Silence. "I want to, I really do." I said, but part of me needs you to feel what it was like when I had no one when I was eating ramen every night and sleeping in the library to stay warm. My mom started crying. This isn't revenge, I added. This is accountability. And I meant it. But even as I said it, my chest felt like it was splitting open. A month after the foreclosure notice, I received a small box in the mail, no return address. Just my name handwritten in faded blue ink. Inside was a leather-bound journal, old worn, probably 20 or 30 years old. There was a sticky note on the cover. You need to see this. I'm sorry. Lena. I sat on my couch and opened it. It was my mom's journal page full of neat slanted handwriting. She started writing in it a year after Lena was born, and it changed everything. I thought I knew. There were entries about money. A lot of them. Not in a budgeting way, but in a desperate, almost paranoid way. Then I found an entry from when I was about 6. I can't tell him, he wouldn't understand, but I used the last of that college fund for Lena's treatments. If we don't pay it, they'll stop. She was so sick. What kind of mother would I be if I didn't try everything? I froze. What treatments? I flipped back to earlier pages. Lena had some kind of autoimmune disease as a child. Hospital visits, experimental therapies. Things I never knew about. I must have been too young to understand. They never talked about it. I don't even think. Lena remembered much of it. And then later in the journal, maybe a decade, after the treatments had stopped, I saw this. The fund is empty. We kept saying we'd build it back up. But then Lena got engaged, and I wanted to give her something good after. Everything she lost. Everything she never knew. She lost. I didn't think it would blow up like this, but maybe he'll never find out. So, that was it. The fund was gone long before the wedding. I flew home again unannounced. I brought the journal with me. They were sitting at the kitchen table when I walked in. I know I said I know everything. My mom went pale. I dropped the journal on the table. You spent it way before Lena's wedding for her medical bills, and you kept it from me. Neither of them said anything. You lied, I continued. And then you lied again when it was easier to let me think you just favored her. Tears filled my mom's eyes. I didn't know how to explain it. You didn't. Even try. My dad finally spoke. We thought we were protecting you. No, I said you were. Protecting yourselves from guilt. The trust fund company offered a deal. I wrote a signed statement saying, understood why the funds had been misused and didn't want to press charges. They'd close the investigation and reduce the penalties. The rest could be paid off slowly through a structured repayment plan. I had to make a choice, protect my parents and bury everything again, or let it play out in court, which could destroy their financial lives permanently, maybe even ruin Lena's too if they dragged her name into it. I sat in the decision for days. Then another twist. Lena showed up at my apartment with a check, $50,000. I sold my car. She said I moved into a studio. I'm doing this, whether you help them or not. I looked at her. I didn't remember being sick. She said, but now that I know what they did, I don't know how to feel. I'm angry. I'm grateful. I'm confused. Me too. We sat in silence for a long time. The deadline to respond to the trust company was approaching. I had to make a choice. After a lot of thinking, I called the lawyer. I won't press charges, I said, but I want every detail of what they did on record. Full repayment. No forgiveness. The lawyer agreed. They'll be on the hook for every penny legally, and their credit will suffer for years. I signed the statement. It felt cold, but right. Then I did something else. I sent a copy of my mother's journal to every family member, aunts, uncles, cousins, everyone who ever treated Lena like a queen and looked down on me for working 2 jobs during school. I let them see what had really happened. I wanted the truth out there. Let them live with it. My parents called furious. How could you humiliate us like that? My mom shouted through the phone. You humiliated me for years. I said you let me suffer while keeping a secret. That could have changed everything. My dad tried to play peacekeeper. You don't know what it's like to watch your child almost die. No, I said, but you had 2 kids, and you chose only one. They begged me to take it back, to send a follow-up message explaining. It was a misunderstanding. I said no, and I mean it, Lena was the only one who didn't get angry. She texted me I deserve to know too. Thank you for not hiding it anymore. Months passed. My parents lost the house. The bank took it. They moved into a tiny apartment on the edge of town. My mom started working again at a local diner. My dad picked up part-time work fixing appliances. They asked if they could stay with me just until things got better. He told them, "No, you burned that bridge a long time ago." I said they weren't homeless, just humbled. They had a roof. They had food. But they didn't have me. And that was the real loss. 2 years later, I finished my MBA full scholarship, top of my class. I didn't invite anyone. No family, no friends. I walked the stage alone in a cap and gown paid for by my own work, my own suffering. And after the ceremony, I went home, opened a bottle of champagne, and toasted the empty air to the girl no one believed in. I whispered, "Look at her now." Then I burned the last photo I had of my parents in my apartment, watched it curl and blacken until it was ash. People say revenge doesn't heal anything. They're right. But sometimes it's the only way to get someone to feel the hurt they caused. I didn't destroy my parents. I just stopped saving them. They destroyed themselves. And maybe so did I a little. But at least now I get to choose who I become. And it won't be a daughter who's forgotten again. Daughter who's forgotten again.